back to The Explainer. I'm your host, and today we are prying open a mystery box that is, honestly, genuinely terrifying. We're going to dive right in because what we're looking at today isn't just some dusty piece of lost history. It's an active, looming threat. We're breaking down this incredibly unsettling sequence of events where sheer, blinding human arrogance crashes head-on into an ancient, lethal curse. And look, I gotta warn you right out of the gate, the visuals we've pulled from the sources for this one are insanely dark. We're talking heavy shadows, deep menace, and an atmosphere that feels deeply, fundamentally dangerous. So brace yourselves, let's get into it.
So ask yourself this: what happens when a story literally kills anyone who reads it? I mean, just by participating in this explainer right now, we're kind of playing with fire, uncovering a completely forbidden secret. We are tracing the footsteps of a writer, a guy totally obsessed with finding fresh, edgy material for his novels, who just ventured way too far into the unknown. And what he unearthed out there in the dark? Yeah, it really should have stayed buried.
I mean, just look at the absolute desperation in this warning. Do not read this, you will be killed. The stark, jagged red text just bleeding right through those heavy shadows, it is pure nightmare fuel. This was the frantic plea from the locals. When this writer showed up looking for inspiration, the villagers were utterly terrified. They literally physically covered his eyes when he got too close to the text. They begged him, don't read it, don't listen to it, don't even look at it. But you know how it is, that arrogant curiosity of a writer hunting for a blockbuster story, it completely blinded him to a very real danger.
To put this isolation into perspective, 70 years. That's how long the first village this writer arrived at had been perfectly frozen in time. Just picture a decaying, shadowy environment, an ecosystem totally cut off from the modern world. The locals are wearing pristine, traditional clothes, growing their own food, and they flat out refuse to leave because they believe the outside world is toxic. But as deeply isolated as that village was, that was just the gateway. The real nightmare was buried much deeper in the forest.
300 to 400 years old, our writer actually hired guides to take him deep into these incredibly dense, suffocating woods to a second, much older, completely abandoned settlement. And these ruins, wow. They were completely swallowed by massive peepal trees. You've got these gigantic roots snaking through the stone, basically holding the decaying architecture together like a skeletal cage, fading into absolute darkness. The atmosphere out there was incredibly heavy. It was practically vibrating with this dark, ancient energy.
But the absolutely crucial point here is what they found inside these ruins. This ruined palace wasn't just, old. It was a canvas of pure horror. The writer discovered these grotesque carvings etched directly into the stone walls. We're talking graphic, terrifying depictions, severed heads, chests violently torn open, monstrous figures literally draining the blood from human fingers. And these weren't just decorative art pieces, okay? They were explicit, terrifying warnings deliberately left centuries ago by people who fled that place in absolute, utter panic.
But the carvings, honestly, they were just the warm-up. The true, most dangerous trap was the story itself. These forbidden words were carved into massive stones scattered all throughout the shadowy ruins. And the truly chilling part? It was written in multiple languages. English, Hindi, the local dialects, every language you could think of. It was completely by design, so no trespasser could ever claim ignorance. It was this lethal story, just sitting patiently in the dark, explicitly constructed to be read by anyone foolish enough to wander in.
7 feet tall. While the writer was exploring this hidden basement stairwell as the sun went down, he saw a shadow. Just this looming, aggressive silhouette casting a massive, terrifying shadow all across the ruins. It was a massive, 7-foot-tall figure stalking through the dark. Pitch black clothing, and on its head, large, horrifying horns. It perfectly matched those gruesome demonic carvings on the walls. And then, it stopped. It turned, and it stared right at him.
Guys, what the writer saw wasn't just some guy in a creepy costume. It was the Night Demon. And we need to brutally define exactly what this threat is. This isn't folklore. It is an active, unstoppable, completely unkillable apex predator. It's an entity born out of dark magic and deep betrayal, and it is eternally bound to hunt down and slaughter absolutely anyone who reads its forbidden history. And just by wandering into those intensely scary ruins with his floodlights and his camera, our writer had inadvertently woken it up.
Section 2. The Ancient Evil. A Pact of Blood and Betrayal. Let's dig into the lore and see exactly how this nightmare started.
So, centuries ago, there was this incredibly ambitious king, but he was a completely failed conqueror, repeatedly betrayed by his own armies right on the verge of victory.
Driven totally mad by loneliness and failure, he wanders into the dark woods and crosses paths with a powerful half-witch. They fall in love, and she reveals this dark, cursed land where a ritual could grant him ultimate power. The catch? It required a sacrifice of whatever he valued most. Now, the witch genuinely thought he would sacrifice his kingdom for their love, but in the ultimate horrific betrayal, the king sacrificed the witch to the dark forces just to secure his empire.
But look, dark magic always collects its due, right? Here is the brutal, terrifying irony of the king's curse. He gained that unstoppable, horrifying power, but only at night. He built his massive empire through nocturnal slaughter, but by day, the magic faded entirely, leaving him this weak, ordinary, rapidly decaying man. And eventually, because mortal bodies just cannot contain demonic magic, he died. But death wasn't an escape. He eternally transformed into the exact monster he had become in life, the Night Demon, forever trapped in the terrifying ruins of his own palace.
Okay, snapping back to the present. The writer is safe in his hut back at the village, but he just couldn't let it go. The sun comes up, washing away all that nighttime terror. Armed with that totally false gravery daylight gives you, he pulls out the photographs he took of those massive shadowy stone texts, and he read the words. He read the entire forbidden history we literally just covered, and in that exact precise moment, the curse was sealed.
And this, right here, was the fatal mistake. Look at this contrast. On one side, you have the desperate, absolute truth from the villagers. Do not read it. Death is certain. Contrasted directly with the blinding, almost comical arrogance of the writer. Oh, it's just a story for my novel. He treated a lethal supernatural tripwire like it was just content for a book. And because he read it, the demon was officially summoned. The consequences were about to explosively catch up to him.
That very evening, as the writer sat with the villagers for dinner, he saw it again, just standing there, lurking in the shadows behind a house. He pointed it out, and immediately, absolute chaos erupts. Flames. The writer's hut, which was sitting isolated away from the others, suddenly and unexplainably burst into this terrifying roaring inferno against the pitch-black night. And that's when the true terror set in. From the dead center of the blazing inferno, the roof completely collapses, and out walks the demon in black. This horned, 7-foot monster literally emerges directly from the raging fire, completely and utterly unharmed, just an absolute unit of terror. The villagers are screaming in total panic. The entity had arrived to collect the life of the man who dared to read its story. Talk about no escape. The village warriors, being incredibly brave, actually rushed this demon with bladed weapons. They struck it in the neck, the head, the chest, but the blades just sliced through the demon like it was made of water. Its flesh instantly healed. It didn't even bleed. It just casually grabbed these men, snapping their bones like twigs, and tossed them aside into the shadows. The writer was completely, hopelessly trapped. This monster was unstoppable, and it was walking straight for him. So in a split second of frantic, logic-defying panic, the writer realizes his only hope wasn't running away. It was running back. Back into those terrifying dark woods. Back to the deeply dangerous cursed ruins. He literally sprints into the night, the demon relentlessly hunting him, just crashing through the trees right behind him. His only target? That hidden basement he had stumbled upon the night before. The tomb of the betrayed witch.
Section 3. The Final Showdown. Awakening the Betrayed.
The writer dives headfirst into the basement, mere seconds ahead of the demon. He violently shoves the heavy stone lid off the tomb and rips away the ancient map resting on the corpse. Instantly, the decaying mummy of the betrayed witch violently awakens, her hands shooting up and grabbing his throat. But then, she sees the night demon entering the chamber. She immediately drops the writer, and a brutal, earth-shattering clash between two ancient, horrifying evils begins. They tear into each other with such intense supernatural force that they literally bore holes straight into the stone floor, turning solid rock to dust with their bare hands.
But the king's demonic power was just too immense. Let's break down this visceral, desperate sacrifice, because it's wild. In the brutal melee, the demon literally rips the witch's legs from her body. But the witch, fueled by centuries of burning vengeance, does not stop. Dragging her torso, she leaps onto the demon's back, tightly wrapping her decaying arms around its massive, horned head. She starts chanting in this ancient, forgotten language, sacrificing her own eternal rest to cast one final binding spell. Suddenly, this blinding subterranean light violently erupts from the earth, completely consuming them both.
And then, the light faded. The cavern went totally empty.
The writer crawled out of the shadowy ruins at dawn, somehow cheating death. But the ruins themselves had physically altered. Before, remember, there was just a single terrifying statue of the demon standing proudly atop the palace. But now, in the daylight, the stone itself had changed. It was now a statue of the demon, forever trapped in the desperately tight stone embrace of the witch. The supernatural prison had actually manifested right into the physical world.
If that witch is ever separated from the demon, it will be annihilation. The writer survived, yeah, but he left us with this incredibly fragile, terrifying reality. The demon isn't dead, it is merely contained. As long as the stone arms of the betrayed witch hold tight, the world is safe. But come on, we know the world is full of greedy, curious people.
Which leaves us with this chilling final thought to chew on. Those scary, dangerous ruins are still out there, hidden deep in the shadowy forest. The story is still carved into those massive stones, just waiting. Who will be the next writer, the next tourist, the next arrogant explorer to venture into the dark and break the stone embrace? Think about that the next time you go looking for a scary story, because sometimes the story is looking for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, stay safe out there, and seriously, maybe don't read everything you find in the dark.